They're probably off to Super
I
League.
don't think Flanagan thinks he can actually achieve a premiership in 2 years, let alone probably a top 8 berth either. So
He does bring a lot of experience. And to be honest, look, I think...
yeah, some will stay, some will move them on.
Yeah, and some are
Surplus to
older,
requirement.
obviously. Some are older. But even then, they've only been signed to 2 deals. So I think, it's a valid point, and I think there will be more turnover.
Half those players will go to other clubs.
So you think his spot is not... or his spot is under question at 5'8"?
Of course, everyone's spot is... no one's spot is ever guaranteed. You need to make sure that hey, if you don't perform, I will swap you or put you or not even put you in the team.
From Matt Burton saying the earth is flat to our club captain Raymond Faitala Mariner being given an immediate release and everything else in between, it's definitely been an exciting off-season for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs and indeed the NRL. But never fear, Dibbo and I are back to discuss all the drama and the intrigue and the theatre from the off-season, and we're not going anywhere, baby. We're here to stay. Now, I just wanted to quickly mention that over the off season, Dibbo and I took some personal time off, and there were some international events that had us busy. But that doesn't mean that our commitment to the podcast has gone anywhere. In fact, we're going to go harder. We're going to go better this year, God willing. Now, we're going to do our best to cover everything that's happened in the off season. But there has been a lot happening, so we're going to be covering some this week, some next week. But we're going to try and get through it all. But you will notice that there is a difference on the table, and I have some sad news to share with you all. Breaks my heart to say that our favorite Raiders supporter, our podcast mascot, Baby Grogu, has left us. And we've replaced him with the Dragons piggy bank. It's empty, just like the Dragons' hopes for 2024. But I promise you, we're going to get more fitting mascots than a cheap piggy bank that is, in Dragons' colours. But there is going to be more good news to come through the podcast. Without further ado, I want to welcome back my trusty partner in crime and co-host, Dibbo. Welcome back to the podcast for 2024, Dibbo.
Oh, it's been an uneventful off-season, not just for the players, but for myself. I think it's been probably the most uneventful off-season in years. There's absolutely nothing happened. No dramas, barely.
You just shit on my intro, mate. I just said it's been a really eventful off-season.
Oh, I wouldn't call that eventful at all, to be honest.
I mean, as a Dragons supporter,
very placid across all clubs. It's ironic that you got a piggy bank here. I mean, the Dragons got part owners, the Gordon family, probably one of the richest families in Australia. Probably, I'm sure they would even put a penny in here just seeing how tight they've been in terms of putting funds into the Dragons. But even more significant is this piggy bank that now Andrew Twiggy Forrest from 2025, one of his companies, Squadron Energy, will be the front jersey sponsor of the Dragons.
Interesting.
So, you know what? This piggy bank for the Dragons might be getting a lot bigger than you just expect.
But I want to ask you, actually, you make a very good point, and this is very off the cuff. This, honestly, is not something we discussed earlier, but you mentioned that it's been an uneventful off-season. I think, I just realized, I think you're right, because there hasn't been...
Thankfully, no dramas.
Yeah.
We got a month to go. Boys, please behave.
There's been no...
I don't care if you're a
sex
fringe.
scandals. There's been no bubblers. There's been no real big scandals from the players to speak of.
That's right. Look,
and that's great. I'll be honest. I'm very happy that we're saying it's an uneventful off-season.
Whether they're a fringe first grader or a first grader or reserve grader, just please behave, boys. He's a role models at the end of the day. We want to see you do well, and I'm sure you want to do well yourselves and go ahead in life. So, yeah.
And
keep at it.
Let's hope the 4 teams going to Las Vegas keep their
that's good.
discipline in check.
They're the 4 teams you want, to things to go south quickly, The Roosters and Souths. Thanks, boys. Hope you go there every year.
Oh, God. It's so good to have you. It's so good to be back, guys. Honestly, I've honestly missed this banter. I've missed the podcast so much. We've got so much to catch up on.
I thought I'd honour, wearing the number 10 jersey from the 1981 Grand Final and the Supremo of the Canterbury Bulldogs, former jersey, Phil Gould, when he was trudging out for the Newtown Jets. The famous number 10.
Famous number 10. The famous Phil Gould. The guy in everybody's mind at the moment when it comes to overhauls. Yeah, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Looking even more impressive. I know he'll get there, but it's looking impressive.
Look, we've got a lot of what Phil Gould has to say to discuss, but as for me personally, it's been an exciting off-season. Has been quite a sad off-season with certain international events and things like that. It's always a bummer. That's not what we're here to talk about, though. And I'm very much looking forward to 2024. I think that, with the roster overhaul at the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, there's been 10 signings that have come on. And I think, if we get straight into it, let's talk about it, right? The roster overhaul. First and foremost, it's got to be stated. And this is, news that's come out over the last 24 to 48 hours. Raymond Faitala-Mariner has been let go or relieved of his duties at the Bulldogs, effective immediately, to sign a 2-year deal with the Dragons. I mean, how funny is it that he leaves the Bulldogs and he goes to the Dragons?
Oh, I think it's a good move.
For everyone involved.
He went from being club captain at Canterbury to mentor for reserve graders at St George, so maybe Canterbury knew what they were doing, so yeah.
You don't think he'll be in the starting team for the Dragons in the top 17?
I don't think he'll be in the 13. I know he'll be in the 17. Like, he might get some starts here and there, but I know there's a few boys that are pushing hard to earn a 13 berth. They've been there for the whole off season. I don't know. Raymond's at 30 now.
Should be coming into his prime though as a forward.
No, I think at 30 he's been there for a while. In the last few years he's been quite injury prone. He hasn't really set the rugby league world alight basically.
Hasn't fulfilled his potential, you would say?
I think his best years were about 3+ years ago. Last few years, 30 years old now. So they've only got him on a 2-year deal. So
it's like, interesting, yeah.
2 years.
And they're probably off the Super League.
I don't think Flanagan thinks he can actually achieve a premiership in 2 years, let alone probably a top 8 berth either. So
he does bring a lot of experience. And to be honest, look, I think his time at the Bulldogs was up, and I was surprised it took them so long to honestly release him. I thought it would happen a lot sooner. And when it did happen, I don't think anybody was surprised.
Yeah, look, the wheels at Canterbury or the train is in motion. Either you're all aboard,
or you're not here at all,
or you're going to be left behind.
Yeah,
so there was a hiccup there. They patched things up, but I think both parties realised you're not on board, so you're going to be left behind. And
yeah, I think the relationship had become, I don't want to say untenable, but I think there's too much baggage there for it to be able to start, I guess, a fresh.
Canterbury's moving in one direction. You'll see it again in 2 years. You'll probably half the squad now that you got. Probably 40 to maybe almost half of it won't be there either.
It's interesting.
Half those utilities won't be there. I guarantee it. Your half might not even be there. I know the direction Phil Gould was going. He did it at Penrith. If you go back about 10 years, they had players like Jamie Soward come on board. Great player, took him to the finals. But they had only signed on a few years contract, get them improving where they want to, attract players, get players, take them to the next step, build, basically. So,
and look, it's a good point you make, because if you look at players like Blake Taaffe, Drew Hutchison, Jamin Salmon, Jake Turpin, they've only been signed for 2-year deals.
Yeah, some will stay, some will move them on.
Yeah, and some are older, obviously, some are older. But even then, they've only been signed for 2-year deals. So I think, it's a valid point, and I think there will be more turnover.
Half those players will go to other clubs. They'll be very valuable there as a squad member. Some will go overseas, some may retire. But I know what direction Phil's doing. We saw it at Penrith. Even your half, I think 2 or 3 years he won't be there. He might get another couple of years after
Sexton?
that. Yeah.
I mean, unless he sets the world on fire.
That's the only way. I don't think he will, to be honest.
We'll get to that. I think that's a bigger discussion.
But he will improve his. That's what I mean is the next half after him, Phil will want is pretty much a rep level half.
Look, I think Sexton could be our long-term half, but it's yet to be seen how he performs with an undermanned forward pack.
Guarantee you now, Phil's next strategy will be the middlemen and the halves. That's all he's missing.
On Raymond Faitala-Mariner's release, we do not have a single player from the top 30 from 2021.
That's brilliant.
He is literally...
That was your wooden spoon year.
Look, I'm with you, but it's interesting, like in the paper, in the Telegraph Sports or whatever, Dean Ritchie was asking the question, is this the greatest overhaul in rugby league history?
There's no more losers there.
I don't think it's the greatest. I think it's the biggest overhaul, but not the greatest. Because I honestly think last year's results were pathetic. We signed a lot of players, and the results, we only won 7 games, and we barely avoided the wooden spoon. I don't think that was a sign of any good at all. This year will determine how good of a roster overhaul we've actually had 3 years, 4 years on from 2021. None of those players there. We've signed 10 new players for 2024. This is what's going to determine, I guess, the first 12 weeks will determine absolutely everything about this roster overhaul. Now, it's also about how the team gels and how Seraldo can get the team working together. Because it's interesting, right? Like, Josh Curran was on the Bloke podcast. If you guys haven't seen it, he was on the Bloke podcast talking about the defensive structures that Andrew Webster was implementing at the Warriors, and he was saying they were almost identical to what Panthers were implementing when he was there as a junior. That Ivan Cleary is implementing, and now he's saying that Cameron Seraldo is implementing almost the exact same defensive structures that Andrew Webster was implementing at the Warriors.
Right.
So, it sort of begs the question, are we being too harsh on Seraldo after last year? Was there not only a personnel deficiency, but was there a bad egg amongst them? And will 2024 be majorly different? And I guess that's a question I want to ask you guys. Like, go ahead and have a look at what people have been saying about Cameron Seraldo over this offseason, what the players have been saying, especially the new guys that have come in, like Drew Hutchison, for example, Mann, Josh Curran is saying that the training is intense, but it's not overwhelming and it's not backbreaking. It's great. They like the systems that are in place. What are your thoughts? I mean, for me, last year we sort of alluded to this. We didn't blame Seraldo, but we did say that he has to take some of the blame.
I think this year, what they'll consider a pass for Seraldo is if he takes them to the cusp of the 8, so not necessarily in the 8, but a narrow miss out, and they'll say, okay, we're heading where we want to be going.
It's a market improvement.
Because they know that they're in the market for forwards and a half, right? A middle forwards, I mean. I think your most player under pressure this year, personally, I know it's probably out of left field, but I think it's the young gun, Sam Hughes. He's got a lot to shoulder this year. How old is he, 20?
I think I'm not sure. I think he's either 21 or 22.
He's still young, but he's a big boy.
Yeah, he's a very big boy.
He's playing number 8 or number 10. If he has a boom season, mate, he could probably... Your rest of your team will perform. Your backs, your edge second rowers in Preston and Kickoff, as long as they stay fit, you're going to love them. I know your halves probably aren't the best pairing in Sexton and Burton, but you got class in the back line in the form of Crichton, for example, Addo Carr. I mean, they'll make up for some of the deficiencies that you may experience from the halves, for example, if they have a quiet game. Those boys are speed men. They create things out of nothing.
Look, I think...
but Sam Hughes, if he has a boom season, mate, he could probably carry his into the 8.
Look, I have thoughts on this, right? And I've been listening to what a lot of the players have been saying about Sam Hughes.
Is he going to be a starting
He
forward?
won't start, right?
So who's going to be your starting front rowers?
I think it'll be King and Knight.
I reckon Sam Hughes can go past both of them too.
Look, I do. I think that his ceiling is much higher, right?
Yep.
And I think that he's showing the right signs. Phil Gould has talked him up on Twitter. Josh Curran has called him the Terminator on that Bloke podcast. So I think that there is a lot of potential for...
I know it's out of left field, but I just look at him and think Matt King's not a big front rower. Max King, sorry. Apologies, but Max King isn't a big front rower. Liam Knight, although tall, isn't big in stature. Like, he's not wide, basically. He's more thin.
Look,
but Sam Hughes, I reckon
he has the potential to be a good forward. But I think what it comes down to is we need to roll as a pack as opposed to like one standout forward.
I reckon he'd be I probably shouldn't have said he'd be the most under pressure, but I reckon he could be the one that could be your standout.
He could be
forward.
the breakout player for us this year. I think he can be the breakout player for us this year.
He's got that potential.
He definitely has the potential. I also think that Josh Curran can make a very big difference to our pack.
Oh, he can play anywhere in that pack. Look, I don't think your halves are really under pressure. I mean, I don't think they really would have put. I don't think they really would put pressure on Toby Sexton and Matt Burton.
Well, but it's interesting. Like, I read an article just recently by Drew Hutchison saying that he has actually come to the Bulldogs to be a half.
How good is that? You got to back up in Drew Hutchison. People forget he was the under-20s player of the year.
He was
a decade ago
at half. So it gives me some confidence, but it's also it's interesting to see where the pieces of the puzzle fall come round 1, 2024. Now, I speaking on that, I also want to talk about the players that the Bulldogs have signed and brought in for 2024. So we've got Blake Taaffe, Bronson Xerri, Connor Tracy, Drew Hutchison, Stephen Crichton,
Yep.
Jamin Salmon, Jake Turpin, Kurt Mann, Pawasa Famasuli, and Josh Curran.
How good is that? Even Salmon could play in the halves.
I mean, Blake Taaffe can play in the halves.
That's right. You got depth in the backs now.
You made a point about who you think the backup player was, and you thought it was Sam Hughes.
I think he's got the one. You really need that front row that can break the line. I know he's got it in him. I mean, Max King tunes you out good meters. Liam Knott doesn't really. I mean, he gives you good, decent stats, but it doesn't really penetrate the line. Sutton, he's still at the club.
I want to make the point, right?
Yep.
I actually think the player that will stand out the most for the Bulldogs and will make a difference, that I think is going under the radar a little bit, is Blake Taaffe.
Oh, he's going to give you a great game.
I think and I made this comparison before, and people sort of shouted me out, but shouted me down about it. But I want to make this point, and I'm going to stick to it. All right, and I'm happy to be proven wrong. I think Blake Taaffe, with just consistent momentum and go forward from our pack, just playing together as a team, Blake Taaffe can be to the Bulldogs what Reece Walsh is to the Broncos.
Yeah, he's got that flair. Don't forget, he played in that
21 grand final against the Panthers, and he played well.
I just think that the only reason I say Sam Hughes is because everyone says he's lacking in the middle.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
And just how significant he can be.
But I think one thing that the Bulldogs have lacked over the last few years has been that explosive speed and pass out wide, the final pass out wide. And you think about our backline plays have suffered year on year because we haven't had that final link man between the let's say the half,
Yep.
right, and the wing.
Right.
Usually for other teams, it's the fullback.
Right.
Avrila wasn't given a chance to showcase what he can do. He was chopped and changed and wasn't actually given the fullback role to make his own. If given the chance, and I think Blake Taaffe deserves it, I think he could become a Reece Walsh-esque fullback for the Bulldogs. He's got the speed. He may not be as fast as Reece Lightning, but I think he has the ball playing ability. He does have speed, and he has that absolute explosive off the mark pace. And I think that, you know, I'd like to come back in sort of 12, you know, maybe round 12, round 15 to see really where he is at that stage.
All right, you've touched on Blake Taaffe. Just quickly on the other players, so we're not spending Bronson Xerri. Do you think he needs time in the reserves, maybe a couple of months before he gets
I think
been out of the game for 4 years?
Yeah, I think he needs 4 to 6 weeks minimum in New South Wales.
Connor
Cup.
Tracy is another one that can play in the halves. Oh, I think it's a shame if he's not in the 17.
I think he needs to be somewhere in the 17, whether that's at fullback or in the
Yep.
centres or on the wing.
Yep.
That he could play anywhere, or even as a yeah.
You've already touched on Drew Hutchison and Stephen Crichton. Jamin Salmon will probably, I find it hard he'll be playing in the reserves. I find that he'll probably slot in the 17. He gave Penrith great service last year, so.
But he also played a lot of time in Reggies, so.
Yeah, okay, so he might be another return. Jake Turpin will probably be your dummy half or backup dummy half.
I think he might be backup dummy half, but I don't think he's going to play. He won't start. He won't be in the 17.
Him and Kurt Mann will probably share the duties, or I know you got the other, what's his name? The short fella.
Marnie. Marnie's our captain, so he'll be starting 9.
And you get Turpin, and Mann might slot in on the bench, and then Turpin will be the backup hooker.
I'm actually thinking that, I don't know, this is just sort of me thinking out loud, but what I assume or what I think might happen is that Mann might fill in that lock with Josh Curran starting on the bench.
Right.
To give us a little bit more.
Yes, look, that's good that you touched on Curran because he was my next question. He will be in the 17, whether starting or on the bench.
Yeah.
He's great. He's a good signing.
Famasulia
finds he'll give his depth, whether he's in the reserves or first. He's there.
I'd like to see what he can do.
It's very important to have.
I think he's great to have, and I'd like to see what potential he has as a prop. And interestingly, I think he's on a development contract and not on a top 30 contract. So it gives us a little bit of.
Oh, he's on a development.
I think he's on a development contract.
Wow, he went from Roosters to St George to Dolphins to development contract at Canterbury.
I think he's on a development contract.
I don't think he would have. No, I don't think so. Otherwise
I'm pretty sure. Phil Gould was saying on Twitter that he's on a development contract.
That's interesting. Well, we'll check that out another time. All right, he's got rid of TPJ. Just going through the notes.
Yeah.
But rather he left. If the boxing falls through, so he gets 2 fights in between. If that doesn't work out, obviously he's probably aiming to go to Brisbane. I mean, what are they going to offer him? 300 a season?
I think, look, wherever he ends up, good on him. I'm happy that he's not with us anymore. the Bulldogs said they're not going to stand in his way. I think that is, it's a good thing because they ended it amicably. They didn't have to pay him out, for the seasons that he's not going to be there, and it is what it is. And I think I'm happy that it's all over and done with. But on the discussion of forwards, very, very interesting, right?
Yep.
Siasua Taukeiaho
Yep.
was not signed by the Bulldogs apparently because of a failed fitness test.
Very good due diligence. Maybe some other clubs can learn from that.
I thought it was very lucky for us to get away
No, that's
with
good.
it.
He would have been on. I think he was coming for about a decent contract
Yeah,
as well.
500,000.
For someone, that was pretty good. They avoided that. But you know what? It's money well saved because Taylor May's on the market, I believe.
Do you mean Terrell from the Roosters?
Yeah, sorry, Terrell, the brother. And then if you get Terrell, he's a booming forward for the Roosters. His brother Taylor might come along as well.
Well, he said he wants to play with
one of the brothers,
with his brothers. So that puts Tyrone May back on the Bulldogs' radar.
I don't think necessarily need to get. I don't think necessarily need to get Tyrone. I think he's enjoying his time overseas.
But I mean, with the backs and stuff we have, we don't really need Taylor either. Really, if you think about it, with Bronson Cherry there, we've got Blake Wilson, we've got Jacob Kiraz, you've got Fox, you've got Stephen Crichton, you've got Connor Tracy there who can play centre. So I don't know why we would look at.
Everyone seemed to miss out on Adam Fanua, Blake, except for Cronulla. They still paid overs for him. I wouldn't say overs, but they still had to pay about $1 million a season. So I just feel like he would have went for them a bit cheaper because I know he wasn't never going to the Dragons. He was there previously in the under-20s. He was their captain.
Got rid of him unceremoniously.
Unceremoniously, he thought he was, hard done by. I guess he hasn't forgiven him since then. So,
yeah, I thought it was interesting that the Bulldogs didn't go a little bit harder for him. I think if they were to pay him like a considerable amount more than they're willing to pay, what it does is it brings your prop level up quite significantly, and your team becomes.
Oh, you build a team around him. That's what you needed. He was one of the missing pieces in the puzzle.
I mean, in 2025, you sign Adam Fanua Blake and maybe a Terrell May, and there you go. You've got your starting forward pack. That's now right up there with the best in the game in terms of aggression, in terms of depth, in terms of capability. So I don't know. I was hoping that the Bulldogs would go harder, but you mentioned Sam Hughes earlier, and we mentioned that a lot of the players are talking him up. So I think there are good signs there. But I think the other player that we're missing out on as a prop who can come in and do some real damage in terms of being a meter eater is Chris Patolo. So they re-signed him for 2 years. Now, one of the things that I remember from 2023 quite vividly is that when he did play, even though he got concussed and he had those issues, he was making some very good meters. He was doing some very, very good stuff for us in the middle. Better than most of the other props, better than TPJ and things like that. So I think that I have a lot of hope for Chris Patolo, and I know that the club's also, hedging some bets against him becoming a good prop. And he could play off the bench, right? Having someone like him off the bench, having a Josh Curran and a utility, and then someone like Edwards as well on the bench, it gives you a real sort of solid, well-rounded proper rotation on the bench. So they're the two I'm looking out for as young forwards. I think Sam Hughes and Chris Patolo could really develop into something special. Speaking on props, Gould was talking about something, right? And they asked him, we're very weak in the forwards. What are your thoughts? And he responded on Twitter. He was saying things like, look, we've invested heavily in our juniors in props, and we think we're going to be where we need to be with props in 3 to 4 years.
Just needs someone to fill the void for now.
Yeah, 100%. But it gives me hope because I know that our teams are...
I know where they're headed.
Yeah, they're headed well, but it's like, do we have the patience? But more importantly, are Phil Gould and Ciraldo going to be there to reap the harvest?
I think they will.
That's my question.
I think definitely they will. Like I said, if they get to the cusp of the 8, they'll be a pass mark. Because I know for 2025 they'll definitely would have nabbed a few more signings and they'll be definitely stronger.
So if the Dogs make the 8, so if the Dog makes the 8 this year, are they exceeding expectation?
100%. Because they finished 15th.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You can't just jump them from 15th. They haven't been in the finals for how long? 6, 7 years, 8 years. You can't You can't just say, oh, no, it's a definite. They'll make the 8 this year.
I'm not saying it's a definite, but I have hopes.
Who at that club's play? All right, Crichton's won 3 grand finals in a row. Taaffe's played in a grand final. Curran's played a bit of finals. Anyone else?
But hang on. But I don't want to take away from what you're saying, but I also think that the bigger picture is being missed. Last year we debuted 8 or 9 juniors.
Of course.
Right.
They need time.
That stuffed us up big time.
They need time. Yeah.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is,
You'll be richer for that.
We will be much richer, but also the 10 players that we've recruited, most of them are quite experienced in first grade. There's no, we need to blood this person, or like Carlo Oluwapu hadn't played first grade before.
Yeah.
Right. You look at like Hayes Perham had only played 4 games.
Whilst on Carl, now you've hit Carl Oluwapu. What's the go there?
Yeah. So I think he'll be out for the next 12 months.
So he won't play this year at all?
I don't think he'll play.
What is it? Stress fractures? What is it?
It wasn't. So he did surgery on his neck because he had a neck problem.
Yep.
And he had sort of a similar problem that Minicello had back in his day when he was out for a couple of years with injury.
Yep.
And actually, Minicello was helping him out and mentoring him a little bit as he saw the same doctor as Minicello. So he's done the surgery now and he's out indefinitely. I think Seraldo was saying that they're not going to risk Carl Oluwapu for this year. He's still young. He's not even 19 yet. Right, so he's got time on his side, and the Bulldogs are supporting him, and hopefully he can become that player. Because honestly, I think Carl Oluwapu has the potential to become anything, and with this, as soon as he can start running and training again, giving him that time to for his body to grow, to fill out, and then come back when his body's ready, gives us someone for the future. Whether it's a lock, whether it's a 5'8", whether it's a whatever the case may be. He's going to be out indefinitely, and I don't think they should risk him for 24. But also something interesting that I read that I think is ludicrous, but just wanted to gauge your thoughts. Some media outlets are reporting that Jason Taumalolo is on his way out at the Cowboys, and he could end up at the Bulldogs.
Nah.
I think he's the spiritual leader of the Cowboys.
Yeah, and he loves it up in Townsville, the far north Queensland. He's pretty much a chief there. So
he did lose the captaincy though.
That's all right. How old is he now? 31?
Yeah, something
30. Like that. It's all right. It's not going to irk him too much. He's had about a decade worth of $1 million contracts, so he's good.
Yeah, I think he's good.
He's still going to get paid the same.
Yeah, look, he'll
get the focus more on his game.
He's Cowboys through and through.
His best game was played when he wasn't captain.
Look, I think taking that time away from that responsibility of him could help elevate his game. But yeah, I don't think he'll end up on the Bulldogs. I really don't.
I think he'll finish off playing in the NRL at the Cowboys, and yeah.
Hopefully, he deserves that one man. Yeah. He deserves the one man.
I'll be surprised if how long's he got left in his contract? 2 years.
I'm not sure.
I think he's got about 2 years left in him this year, next year. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't go beyond next year. He's played how many games? 250 games or something?
I think he still has more than that in him.
Just he's a big frame and the wear and tear on his body. He'll end up playing close to 300. That's pretty much more than triple than the average first grader.
Yeah, I think he still has some...
probably 10 times the amount of the average
as an
contract.
Impact forward, comes on, plays 20 minutes to half an hour.
Yeah.
Reduce his load. I think he can definitely be useful for another few years.
I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes up this year. So he's had 10 years in first grade. How long do you want him to have?
Nah, he's had longer than 10 years.
That's what I mean. How long do you want to keep him playing?
But bro, players play 15 years.
He was playing in 2013 when Sonny Bill was there. I remember because I remember an article and Sonny was saying that the player to watch out was a 120 kilo kid by the name of Jason Taumalolo, and he was on the money with him.
Yeah. Now we've spoken about our forwards. We sort of dissected it a little bit.
Yep.
I want to go to the backline and the halves.
Yep. This will sort itself out. But let's go.
Well, I mean, I know it will, but I'm interested to sort of hash this discussion out a little bit. There were some suggestions that Burton may not be 5'8".
Setter. No, anyway, let's go. Continue.
Look, I think that Burton is our best 5'8", and I think he's shown enough, even without any real first grade experience around him, without any real support in the forwards, just how much he can do, and he can win games for us on his own.
Yep.
He just needs to continue to hash that out a little bit and sort of refine his skills as a 5'8", but his kicking game, his passing game, short kicking game, I think he's got so much. His running game, like what am I talking about? He's got so much, right? And moving him from 5'8" will destroy his confidence. you've got to keep him at 5'8".
Look, Kurt Mann could fill in there anyway.
Oh, come on.
Blake Taaffe
Come
can.
on, bro. Relax.
Jamin Salmon.
Stop. What, you're going to get rid of Burton to put Kurt Mann at 5'8"?
He can play in the centres. He'll be a deadly duo with Stephen Crichton.
Come on, bro. Come on.
Yeah, go on. I told you, they will upgrade in a few
bro.
years.
I had respect for you 5 minutes ago. Come on.
Just shat on him. They will upgrade in a few years. Mark my words.
What was that?
You will upgrade in a few years.
Where does Burton go?
Or we could probably play centre or lock. He's a big body.
Or does he go to NFL?
He goes to... Oh, he could, man. He's huge.
Talking about a punter in the NFL.
Mate, I'll tell you what, that is one massive boo.
Get paid his whole...
He paid his career earnings in one season.
Yeah,
I think we get like $4.5 million in one season. Come on.
To make one kick a game or 2 kicks a game.
Oh, no, more important these days. And because they know he's got other skills, they'll use him in the special teams as well.
I don't know what anything
I'll tell you
NFL.
now, they will use him in the special teams probably.
So what do you think? You think he should stay at 5'8", or you need?
He's got to start the year at 5'8", obviously.
You can't keep chopping and changing in the halves. You need to give.
No, you got to give
time.
him. You got to give him a couple of months in the 5'8". If things are going good, then you just keep him there.
So you think his spot is not, or his spot is under question at 5'8"?
Of course, everyone's spot is no one's spot is ever guaranteed. You need to make sure that you know, hey, if you don't perform, I will swap you or put you or not even put you in the team.
Fair enough.
Can't just make him feel comfortable. It's the same thing at work. I'll tell you now, I get complacent sometimes when after a great month of work, you know, and a nice bonus comes through, for example, if I get no pressure put on me by my boss for the next couple of months, if I'm not called into question, I get complacent.
No, fair enough.
You got to apply the pressure.
It's very different though, right? It's different. Like Burton is a co-captain on the field. Burton was brought in to do a job to fill in at number 6.
Yep.
Right. Chopping and changing even this position, I think, does a bit of damage. That's what I think. I think you need to keep Burton at 6. And I'm going to go...
I'm not saying they chop and change him. They just make sure, hey...
I think we go another step and say we leave Sexton at 7.
Or Sexton will be at 7 starting for the first few months. But if they're after a first few months, there's no results. You don't keep
but I mean, unless they shit themselves completely, you need to give them time. You can't keep this attitude of chopping and changing.
Oh, they'll get 3 months at least to start the year.
Yeah, but then if you change them 3 months in, you have the same problems we had in 2023.
If they're for example 4-8 or 3-9, there's every reason to review every player's position. Every especially that year has got depth now.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. I don't disagree with you fundamentally, but it's like we saw what happened with the chopping and changing in 2023.
It's a results-based game. I'm telling you.
It is a results-based game, but also it's a game of
development.
It's a game of building a team environment.
Oh, look, I'll
team
tell you
culture
now,
and consistency.
If the player's performing, keep him there. Of course, they ain't performing. What's the point of keeping him there? You've given him 3 months. He's been there last year. How long do you need to keep him there?
So then, if I was to say Crichton.
All right. Anyway, this is who should be starting the year. We've already Sexton and Burton will be your halves, right?
Yeah.
Your wingers will be Addo and...
It's either Blake Wilson, Connor Tracy, or Jacob Curran.
Oh, Jacob Curran, Mr. You know. Oh, hang on a sec. Curran will be your centre with, what's his name?
Crichton.
Because and then Connor Tracy will probably be your winger.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, Connor Tracy and Addo will be your wingers. Your fullback will be Blake Taaffe. You have to start him there the year. I know Crichton didn't necessarily get signed to play fullback.
I don't think Crichton... I don't think he
wasn't on crash hot money at Penrith either. So don't think he was on crash hot money because he wasn't. You guys have pretty much probably upped his contract by 50-60%.
Yeah,
and that's good, earning about $500,000 to $550 for a centre.
I think he's earning more than that, to be honest.
I'm just saying, like, you know, he's probably gone from $350 to about maybe
$700,
or probably maybe $600.
Yeah,
don't think players are.
And to be honest,
don't be fooled by media speculations.
No, I'm with you.
There's a salary cap. You need to make it work.
I think his defensive strengths at centre, plus his ability to attack and link up with his winger.
He's going to be great.
He'll be fantastic at centre.
And he'll be good at fullback.
I know
he'll churn those return meters.
He'll be very good at fullback. But I just, like, Blake Taaffe at fullback for me
He's got the ball playing ability.
And he's got also the speed. I'm not saying Stephen Crichton isn't fast, but
Crichton's got this mad grubber on him. That's
he does too, yeah. That he uses.
He's got some ability as well.
But like you look at Blake Taaffe compared to Crichton, and Crichton doesn't have that FU speed that Blake Taaffe has.
Crichton's deceptively quicker. quick.
Yeah, but I mean, in Origin last year, he was run down by a 35-year-old
Daly Cherry Evans. Yeah, but he's okay.
Do you get me? So I think like if you had Blake Taaffe with the ball, he wouldn't have been chased down by Daly Cherry Evans. That's the way I look at it. I'm a big fan of Blake Taaffe, and I think that at fullback he will do some wonderful things for us.
All right, fair enough. Now I just want to ask you one thing: are you going to give us a cry because Averillo's left?
Why do you have to do this?
That's one player. I mean, I don't think he was even asking for big bucks. I still don't get that part. But anyway, it's happened. So.
No.
And he was a shining light last year.
And you know what else? I think that all he asked for was consistency in role, and the Bulldogs never gave that.
That's probably the only non-signing. Maybe one or two others that I don't agree with how that was allowed to happen. But anyway.
Look, I'm with you. And
he might come back. He's a local junior. Maybe Wayne will fine-tune him and then he will come back.
But see, if he does well up there, why would he come back if he's successful?
Man, have you seen Redcliffe? It's an absolute shithole. I wouldn't live there if you paid me.
I mean, I'm sure people at Redcliffe are saying that Hurstville's a shithole, but,
I don't live there. But anyway, I mean, maybe Cogra for the St. George Dragons.
Yeah, all right.
Hey, hang on a sec. We got Cast Park and Brighton Lassans.
Yeah, exactly my point.
It's better than Redcliffe. Have you been to the Brighton in Redcliffe area? It is absolutely horrible. Compared both Brightons.
Right. To be honest, I just think that when you're at a successful club, and I think that the Dolphins have recruited well. I think they'll do a lot better than they did last year, and they're in for a great year. You wouldn't want to leave a successful team.
Yep.
That's sort of the way I look at it. But I guess now. We've spoken about, I want to talk about players to watch out for in 2024 that are probably a little bit under the radar. So there's two players we already mentioned, Chris Patolo and Sam Hughes. I think they will have great years for us as props.
Yep.
But the other two that I want to talk about are Kirioni Katonga that we bought from the Tigers, second rower.
Tigers, not Brisbane?
No, he came from the Tigers. He came across as highly rated, and the Tigers fans were really upset that they lost him. And we've got Jordan Samrani. Right, I think they're two players that.
Jordan Samrani from who? I thought he was a junior.
He's Dogs junior, but he hasn't played first grade yet. I think he may be potential someone that can make the jump up to first grade.
What is he, a half?
He plays. I think he plays in the. Hang on.
Or is he another powerful ball runner like Jacob Curran?
No, he plays in the wing. 1 second, sorry. But and the others, I think that we could also really stand out for us. Curtis Moran, and Harrison Edwards. I think that they are two young players that I think they have a lot of potential in future in the Bulldogs.
I don't know, with the sort of utilities they signed this year, I don't know if Kurt Moran's going to get much game time. Harrison Edwards I can see, but Kurt Moran, that's how I see things anyway. I mean, Kurt Moran I saw like a sort of utility type forward in the mould of Josh Curran, Jamin Salmon, those sort of guys.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to get much game time. Harrison Edwards I can see as long as he's, performing.
I think Harrison Edwards has a lot of potential. Like, I think he would be a great lock to continue to develop there. That's my honest opinion. Jordan Samrani is centre wing.
There you go.
Right.
Okay. He's another Jacob Curran, which is good.
Potentially, but he's a bit taller.
Jacob Curran is a killer when he eats.
I think he's gonna do so well this year, Jacob Curran. I think it could be a smoky for the Blues.
You Jacob Curran.
Yeah, could be smoky.
Yeah.
If he continues to have those breakout seasons, I think he can be a definite smoky for the Blues.
If he's performing like that, he can perform like that at State of Origin, of course.
Yeah. So they're the players that I think that we could watch out for. But I think just also very quickly, our New South Wales Cup team should do a lot better this year, considering that we've bought so many players and not all of them are going to be playing in first grade. That means our New South Wales Cup team automatically gets beefier, but also a lot of the players that were debuted last year in first grade have a lot more time, have a lot more experience to play in New South Wales Cup.
Yep.
So that should also see the rest of the players moving into the New South Wales Cup squad develop a little bit better, have better mentors around them, have better first grade players around them to help them grow their game. So I'm looking for a very good season from our New South Wales Cup team. They've also got Bailey Bondiodo, who to be honest, I think has a lot of potential.
He's back, yeah.
He was out last year. with an Achilles injury.
Was he there in 2021? He was. Or 2022 he was, anyway.
I think he was there in 2021.
He's the forgotten man.
Yeah, he's the forgotten man. Can play half, can play 5'8". So he could really develop quite a bit for us. But I mean, that's my summation of, I guess, just some of the news that we've got. There's a lot more to cover, and we will be covering it over the next couple of weeks as the season starts. We will be covering the trial games, giving our some feedback and some thoughts on the trial games, and make sure to follow us on our socials on Twitter, Insta, Facebook, everything that you can think of. We're available TikTok as well.
Yep.
But I mean, overall, very quickly, I sort of want to give where I think the Bulldogs will get to.
Yep.
This
Let's
year.
hear this. 6th.
I think that
He's going to back me up.
there is a potential that they could scrape in at 7 or 8.
All right.
But making up the numbers potentially, right? I'm not expecting miracles after having 10 new players and still not knowing where everybody fits in and still being very thin in the forward pack. I do hope and I do believe that if they play as a team and they gel better and that there aren't any more issues with training and things like that, and that there's more professionalism amongst the team, I do think that there is enough experience and creativity in the team for us to cause a lot of headaches and potentially pip some of those other teams to get into that, just sort of scrape into the 8. But if they just sort of get it in the 9th, 10th, but actually miss out on the 8 because other teams are just that much better, I'm not going to be too disappointed. That's where I'm that's where
it's
I'm
a big
feeling.
jump from 15th to about, like you said, 9th or 10th. It's definitely a massive improvement. I think that would be a pass, a tick. I think it would. I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed. I know, obviously, as a fan, you'd love to be hopeful and hope they make the 7 to 8, or the 8, like you're saying. But I'm just saying, I think it's a tick if they get, it still would be a pass for the season if they get like 9th or 10th.
I don't know, man. After the last few seasons that we've had, the Bulldogs fan base needs something.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
I know, realistically speaking, I know, but it's like, come on, like surely.
I think they will improve this year. I don't think they got the 8 yet. I just think they're lacking in the middle, unless Sam Hughes has a boomer of a season.
And Chris Patolo.
You can carry him. Yeah, I mean, those boys. It reminds me of Jason Riles. And, I mean, I'll just go back to a story. Jason Riles, Luke Bailey. I think they debuted in 2001 or something.
Yeah.
They ended up being Australian forwards within a year. New South Wales took St George, because St George had a lot of injuries in 2000. They missed out, but they took them into the finals.
Yeah, that's right.
Those guys, they might have played the back end of 2000, and then I think Luke Bailey tore his pec and Jason Riles only played a handful of games. But by the following year, Australia, New South Wales, Dragons back in the 8 for numerous seasons. Why can't Sam Hughes is a big boy.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of raps on him. A lot of the players are talking up his training. Seraldo's talking up his training. So I think, look, the potential's there. It's just, I want to see it come together. I just want to see.
He's a young, hungry boy.
And look, we won 7 games last year, right? The cutoff to get into the top 8 is around 30 points, right? 28 to 30 points.
You always aim to win at least 50% of your games.
Let's say the Bulldogs win 12 with, I think it's 2 or 3 buys, right? We get to 28, 30 points. Really, it's going to come down to how good our defense is. If we can actually improve
I think
from where we were last year.
I think he's got points in him. I just think it's the oomph in the middle forwards. That's all.
I think it's our
and
defense.
Creativity of your halves. That's where I'm just thinking you're only lacking. Like I said, Crichton and Addo Carr, they'll create things where he will lack. Those guys can do things, by themselves.
Don't know if,
look, I'll be honest here. I got Canterbury about the 10th to 12th spot, basically.
But I mean,
I can see they're improving.
I mean, our back row, for example, if you look at our back row, we've got Kickoff, Preston, Josh Curran.
Yeah.
Right? That's a really good back row lock combination.
Yeah, but they play more, like, have you seen Crichton and Preston play very on the fringes? And they're very damaging.
Kickoff, you mean?
Oh, yeah, who did I say?
Crichton.
Sorry, I meant Kickoff and Preston, and they're very damaging on the edge. Great.
But I mean,
just want that.
But I mean, if you can...
That middle.
If you can just feel... What I'm saying is, if we can... Just have if our forwards can be defensively adequate, and our
of course.
our centers and second rows are combining.
Oh, if your defense is huge, yeah, you could.
That's what it comes down to, right?
could sneak
Attitude in defense, like it could, because I think that's what it's going to come down to. Is if our for and against is too far, it'll deflate the team. The team won't win as many games. It's a roll-on effect.
You just want that mean machine in the middle.
Yeah. Look, Max
Mean
King.
machine.
Look, I will never forget how.
Why would anyone get scared of Max King and Liam Knight up in the middle?
Bro, Max King.
Someone explain.
Max King for the first 10 rounds of the year, last year, was literally one of the forwards of the competition.
And then he probably got demotivated or
got
maybe
injured,
burnt out
got injured,
from
played
the
with
workload.
injury, didn't have any support. He was at a point the only prop we had playing. And then you had Raymond Faitala Mariner, who played prop next to him, and he would make 0 runs at prop.
At 40.
I'll never ever forget that.
Now he's been signed by the Dragons. He should be happy now.
Oh, you know.
Now you can hear Dragons fans saying, "Oh, it's been 35 minutes, 1 run for 3 meters and 2 tackles."
Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyway, I think
that's Dragons' problem now.
Look, we are going to be changing up our cadence a little bit. So we will be doing every week doing a Bulldogs podcast. But as the weeks roll on and as we sort of get back into the rhythm of things, we will be adding a second weekly podcast where we'll be talking about other rugby league teams, other NRL news, things that don't concern the Bulldogs specifically. I know Dibbo is dying to talk about his beleaguered Dragons. They've had a few signing mishaps. Talatai Amon was deregistered and a few other things happening. And I want to talk about the Tigers because I think they've made a lot of great moves and I think they're on the up as well. But if we do that, our podcast will go for 2 hours and I don't think anyone wants to hear us rant on for 2 hours. So look out for that. That'll be coming in the next couple of weeks. We're sort of working on that, how the cadence is going to work and all these different types of things. We've got a lot of things coming. We did have guests lined up for last year, but as I said, some things got in the way. And we're planning all of that. We've got so much content coming, and I'm so excited to take you guys on the journey and to go through another season together. So, if you like the podcast, like, subscribe, share it with your mates, share it with your friends, share it with people you dislike, share it with everybody, and let us know what you want to see down in the comments because we'd love to provide some of that with you. But last question on ask: is this going to be the year of the Bulldogs?
No.
Well, screw you. Thanks, guys. It's going to be the year of the Doggies.
I think it's the year of the Dragons on the Chinese calendar.